Thank you for joining us, everyone. It looks like we've got a good crowd coming in, more people joining us as well. Just for your information, we will be recording today's forum and posting it to the web, making it available for anybody who couldn't join us. We'd love to make sure that people have a good overview of the process and kind of understand what we'll be launching for our important provost search, and also communicating to everyone on how we can get some good feedback and input from everybody here and for anybody watching on demand. So to start off, for those that don't know me, my name is Brian Sagandorf. I'm the HR director here at Idaho State University. I'm happy to be here facilitating this session today, this listening session. Of course, what's brought us here today is we are preparing to launch a search for our university provost. Everyone knows that Dr. Woodworth Nye announced her departure from the university earlier, just after the holidays. I've been working with the president's office since that time in some early stages of planning and preparation for launching a search. As part of this important search project, the university's decided to partner with Summit Search Solutions, an executive search firm that we have worked with on quite a few occasions. I've worked with Summit on numerous searches over the past 7 years, including some recent searches where we had placed a dean of the College of Education, dean of the graduate school, dean of the College of Business, and a couple of vice president searches as well in advancement and finance and business affairs. So we've had a very long, successful working relationship with Summit. They're a firm that has come to know our institution very well, and I'm quite pleased and excited to be able to partner with them on one of the most important searches we could have as a university in finding our next university provost. I am in just a minute going to introduce our folks from Summit, but I also want to let everyone know, if you didn't hear before, we're going to record today's session and make it available so anybody could watch this on demand. During our session, there will be plenty of time for Q&A. We'd love to answer any questions you have that I think you can maybe raise a virtual hand or just a hand on camera, and we can get a questions in that way. You can utilize the chat function, which that will be another great way. At the end of the session today as well, I'll also show you another tool that we have made available so that people either watching this live today or watching on demand will be able to provide feedback through an online tool. So stay tuned for that. If you want to think about some questions, if you want to provide anonymous questions, we'll have some ability to do that, and we'll get into more detail on that in a little while. But first, before we do that, I would like to turn some time over to our partners from Summit. Dick Merriman is one of the senior consultants from Summit, has a lot of university experience, including over 20 years as a university president. So we're thrilled to have him as one of our lead consultants working through this search. Dick, I'll turn the time over to you to provide some more introduction and introduce Stephanie also, who I've worked with for years from Summit as well, and I'm excited to work with her again.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking time this morning. I'll take a minute and call on Stephanie and see if she could just introduce herself and say a little bit about her background in search.
Sure. Thank you, Dick. Good morning, everyone. And as Brian mentioned, I have been working with Idaho State for many years. It's a pleasure to recruit for your institution. I have been with Summit Search since its inception over 10 years ago, and have about 20 years in recruiting. So again, looking forward to working with all of you.
Thanks, Stephanie. I've had a 30-year career in higher education. I started off as a faculty member teaching political science, and then moved over into the advancement world and learned that world and worked there for about a decade. Then for 22 years was a college and university president of a college in Kansas and a university in Ohio. So I've hired provosts, I work with provosts. I think it's one of the most challenging jobs in higher education. You know, the chief academic officer at a university like Idaho State is supervising faculty, dealing with curriculum issues, academic programs here in Pocatello and at your branch campuses. It's a big job, and it's critical for the future of the university. And we we appreciate the trust that the president and the staff have placed in us, and we want to do a great job. So let me take a couple of minutes and describe the search process. Brian, if you could share the screen and show the agenda for today's meeting. I'll just walk people through the process and the timeline quickly.
I will do that here. One moment.
Sure.
Bring that up. Okay.
Okay. You know, the timetable for this process is somewhat unique just because of the timing of the vacancy being created. We're doing upfront work in the search this spring, hoping to have that completed by the end of this month. Then we're going to basically take a break and be on hiatus through May, June, and July. And then the search will begin in earnest in August. The steps here are laid out. Preparation is basically these listening sessions, work to prepare a position profile that we will use to advertise the opportunity, working with Stephanie to develop a plan for you know, reaching out to people who don't know their candidates yet. We call them passive candidates, to source people. That's, I think, a difference maker with Summit, is that there's a lot of active outreach to people to make sure they're aware of an opportunity, to talk with them, understand their interest and concerns, and you know, interest them in the opportunity. That takes place with hundreds of people during this preparation and recruitment stage. Recruitment, we place ads in the usual places, the Chronicle, Inside Higher Ed, lots of emails, probably to a pool of 800 to 1,000 people, phone calls and follow-up. Then the search will go public on August 2nd. End of September will be the deadline for application. When we reach the evaluation phase, the Summit staff will be evaluating materials that have been submitted, reaching out to candidates to get clarity about questions and concerns. And then we will present to the search committee, you know, an evaluation of the candidates. Certainly the search committee will see all the candidates and all their information, but we'll try to expedite their work by saying, here are the candidates who seem best prepared and are strongest. Initial interviews of semifinalists who are picked by the search committee will take place in mid-October. Often that's an interview of 8 people. It can be smaller by 1 or 2 or larger by 1 or 2, depending on, you know, the look of the pool of candidates. Finalist interviews will take place early to mid-November. We don't know how those will be conducted at this point. We've completed a number of searches in the COVID era without candidates ever coming to campus. So it can be done. Hopefully by the time we get, you know, well into your coming fall semester, candidates can come and be on the campus. Obviously it's easier for them if they can see the community, see the campus, be face-to-face with you. We'll just have to see how that goes. And then, you know, when we get past that phase into late November, President Satterlee, you know, will weigh the recommendations of the search committee, make a selection, extend the offer, and that will be the successful end of the search. Onboarding and start date options would be January 2022 in a unique circumstance where a desirable candidate is able to be available that quickly. If not, then it would be, you know, a summer of 2022 transition. President Satterlee is comfortable with that kind of flexibility because he has an interim provost in whom he has a lot of confidence, and that's giving us time to sync up the search schedule with the hiring schedule that exists in higher ed. This will be an early search. In next school year, we'll get out ahead of a number of other places, and I think that will improve the quality of the pool and our chance to make a great hire. Okay, does anyone have a question about any of that before I move on? I think it's pretty straightforward, and that search model is pretty familiar in higher ed, but I'll stop and see if someone has a question. Okay, I'll just keep going then. I'm going to take a couple of minutes and just talk about what we've done this week with listening and what we think we know. This is our 6th listening session this week. Well, we met with the Faculty Senate earlier in the week, with the Dean's Council, with the Administrative Council, with the Search Committee, that was the first gathering of that group, and with the Staff Council. So this is the final conversation with people on the campus. I'll try to summarize just briefly what we think we know, what we knew as we came in, and what we've learned. You know, we know that President Satterlee, when he came to the institution, took over leadership of a university with some enrollment and revenue challenges of somewhat long-standing, with governance issues, and with some difficult relationships in the university community and in the region. President Satterlee's first year here, 2018-19, a lot of energy was devoted to trying to heal rifts on campus, improve communication, increase trust, working on relationships on the campus and in the community, and on launching a branding initiative to begin the process of repositioning ISU in the public side. In his second year, he made some important hires. He hired a new chief financial officer. He launched a strategic planning process. He launched a process for reviewing the health of academic programs. A number of charter groups began to do work on particular opportunities and challenges. In the third year, that was the COVID year. And I think many people would say that's been a challenging year in higher education. I know it has been at Idaho State, with some furloughs and layoffs and budget issues that have been amplified. It's been hard to do anything except just try to adjust. I was leading a university when this happened, and every day there was a new plan because circumstances just kept overtaking us. And I'm sure that's been a universal experience. So there's a feeling, I think, now of regathering, resetting, trying to get momentum back and move ahead. Some things that we would certainly emphasize as we're talking with prospective candidates to be the provost would be things like this. There's stable leadership at the university. The president has the support of the faculty. He's built a constructive relationship with the State Board of Education and with the state legislature, which is helpful in the challenging political environment in which the university is operating. The university has a very, impressive and diverse mix of programs, ranging from certificates through doctoral study. That's unusual in higher education today. It's a strength to try to capitalize on opportunities at branch campuses with new programs, innovation. There are lots of opportunities for a new provost to come in and make positive change happen. There are strong deans, and the core of deans at Idaho State is highly collegial. They're energized to support the institution and to work well with the provost. A lot of work has been done in faculty affairs processes with tenure and promotion, faculty evaluation, the aforementioned program health and prioritization work. There are unique opportunities for a provost at Idaho State to participate in statewide academic leadership. That's not common in many places, but Idaho's four-year institutions, they partner in a lot of discussions involving the State Board of Education. A member of the State Board staff is on the search committee, which is unique and will give some good insight, I think, to that committee as they work. But there's an opportunity there for impact on the whole state of Idaho. There's opportunity at the branch campuses. The Idaho College of Osteopathic Medicine on the campus in Meridian, developing additional health and medical focused programs. The partnership with Idaho National Laboratory in Idaho Falls. There are just lots of opportunities. The president is very energized by these and likes the position of the university compared to the situation of other schools in the market. So the provost is in a position to be an agent for positive change, and that makes this an attractive job, I think. We've heard from groups in the last week about a number of issues. Some are kind of specific to the academic realm of the university. Some are more generic. They're just about the university at large. There's some desire for a person to come in and be a little bit disruptive, not a hurricane, but maybe ask questions. Why are we doing that? Why is that the way to do it? There's a desire for kind of a fresh perspective from outside the institution. There are the concerns about the flow of information in academic units. People feel there are deserts, places where the word doesn't travel too well, where people don't feel very well informed. Workload equity issues are a sore spot. That concerns teaching load, how teaching loads are calculated and assigned. There's a feeling that that needs to be addressed pretty promptly. People have said they'd like to have a little more clarity about the role and importance of research at the university. People talked a little bit about the political climate in Idaho and the concern about hostility toward higher education, and the provost, because of that person's relationship with the State Board of Education, will need to be pretty savvy politically and willing and happy to engage in that part of the life of the university. I guess the last thing I heard from people is we plan and plan and plan. We need to decide. We need to make decisions. We can't wait until there's a 100% consensus behind everything. There are choices to make if the university is going to prosper, and we need to be more decisive and move. That's the time we're in now. People noted that they would like, in a perfect world, it'd be nice to have someone in the role who has worked at a school that has branch campuses and has some experience with that, and sees the value of effective work with those branches. Those were the main things we heard. I think what we're hoping to hear from you now is, does that sound right? Do you have other thoughts about it? As I said, we're going to be preparing a position profile that describes the university, tries to describe candidly the interesting opportunities you have, but is equally candid about some of the challenges that would await the next provost. And so we'd like to have a little bit of a reality testing conversation with you, I guess, and just see if what we've heard is consistent with your experience, your read on the situation of the school, if there are other things that you think ought to be considered for inclusion in a profile or in a one-on-one conversation, of which we will be having many with candidates. So I'm just going to open it up at this point and ask this question. What are the desired traits and characteristics you would be looking for in the next provost? What kind of experience do you think would be most relevant? What do you think are the big opportunities the university needs to capitalize on? What are the big challenges the school is facing that the provost would need to address?
I see a comment there from Kathy. Thank you, that she's concurring with many of the ideas you've shared there, Dick.
Yes. Thank you.
And anyone else, feel free to, if you would like to raise a hand, or we can, if no one, unmute a mic and you can just ask a question, or utilize the chat function would be great as well. And we'd love to hear of any thoughts you have on challenges that we need to be aware of, opportunities, selling points that as Summit goes out to market, are there some wonderful selling points that we have overlooked that need to really be highlighted? So also from Kathy, I'd like to add, I'd like to see a new provost who has a strong background in teaching and ready to actively value teaching. Thank you.
Yes, and we have heard that in other conversations. Brian would confirm that a number of people have said we really would like our provost who has come up through the faculty ranks, who gets faculty life, and who has a commitment, to teaching and providing the kind of professional development and support that people need to be effective teachers.
Question: what has happened to the strategic planning process that started pre-COVID, and how and when can that get restarted? I can try to maybe scratch the surface of the beginning part of that question. I think much of what had happened was COVID to some degree. Some of the progress on that had been unfortunately halted as many hands were called on deck to handle with COVID emergencies. My loose understanding is that the plan is to get back into the strategic planning process with broad committees and executive contributions into that, leading that strategic planning process as well. But unfortunately, Kathy, I think you kind of touched it very well, that COVID unfortunately interrupted some of the progress that had been occurring on that.
Yeah, that's the impression we've gotten as well, is that there was just so much to react to and so much to adjust to on the fly. It's been hard to continue with longer term planning and thinking. Yeah, stupid COVID. That's a good answer. Other questions people have, or comments you'd like to offer about desirable traits in the next provost?
Catherine, thank you. I agree with what Kathy said about valuing teaching. Karen Appleby's background of teaching excellence and her involvement in PI is a strength in the interim provost that I'd like to see continue. I think Dick can mention how in some of the discussions with Faculty Senate, a lot of faculty development discussions we're talking about were addressed in terms of wanting to value and develop teaching skills and tools and resources.
Right. And there was a strong feeling in those conversations that quality teaching it's integral to successfully recruiting students, retaining them, having them have a successful experience here. It all goes together. You can't succeed in enrollment management if you're not succeeding in the classroom.
I'll also make a comment here that if anybody would like to send me a direct message instead of putting it open to everyone, I welcome that. And so I did just get a direct message that maybe I'll read through here with a selling point, a wonderful selling point for the university. Great progress with current leadership and hopeful attitudes emerging on campus. Concerns, very concerned about the current climate with the Idaho legislature and how this could have an effect on recruiting and hiring of a new provost. Very good points there. Another open chat comment there about integrity and transparency being essential in the next provost. Thank you for that comment. I also got another private direct message with a desire to have someone that can identify and interact with folks on all levels, from the custodian up to the president and everyone in between, really having that ability to interact with anyone at all levels of the organization.
We heard that repeatedly. People want someone who's approachable, who isn't aware of or just standing on rank. Yes.
Someone who has an interest and experience with providing higher education to non-traditional students, which great comment, Catherine. I know non-traditional students have been such an integral part of the enrollment of ISU historically. Kathy has another comment here. It takes a strong leader to support faculty in taking risks in order to innovate. I would like to see in the new provost experience in managing for innovation in teaching and program design, or at least a clear idea on how to be that kind of leader.
Yeah, I'll go back to the non-traditional students. There was a good bit of conversation in some of the other focus groups about this initiative that's happening across the state of Idaho, where Idaho students can take online classes at all kinds of institutions that the state funds, and the feeling that there's a moment here where Idaho State could prosper in capturing some students, but you have to have an awareness of how adult and non-traditional learners organize their lives. You have to pay attention to what's in the catalog, what's on the schedule, are things being offered at the right time. I think this may be a moment where the pain of COVID has taught you some things that may allow you to be more adaptable in using, distance technology to connect with those kinds of learners.
Another great comment here from Jack. Thank you. Along those same lines as Catherine and Kathy, a provost who's familiar with emerging technologies and distance learning delivery and practice. It seems like post-pandemic, I think much of what Dick was mentioning here,
yes.
Have an opportunity to engage with new students in new areas. I'm sure there, like Dick was saying, a lot of positive things that we can take out of challenging circumstances, but positive lessons learned over a tough past year.
Yes.
Are there any other comments? And again, feel free if you'd like to send me a private message. I can read that out loud to the group. And I will share some more information about how we can continue to collect more feedback after this meeting as well. Don't feel like the feedback is limited to what can be shared with us here in the next few minutes. But this is very helpful. And all of this feedback that we're hearing here today and taking notes on, coupled with what we've learned through other listening sessions this week, is all going to help us as we fine-tune a position prospectus. We'll be working on that over this month and into May. And then as Dick mentioned, we'll be taking a bit of a pause over the summer while we do candidate research and prepare to launch here in early August when we send out that prospectus and position profile over this opportunity.
I will say too, it's striking how in sync the comments in these sessions have been. I mean, I've been at, and actually I've worked at institutions where I thought, are we even at the same place? I mean, the perceptions were so different and so varied and, you know, candidly at odds. We haven't heard a lot of that. I mean, I think there is, you know, a lot of consistency in the comments that people are making, the things they see, the things they desire in the provost. There's a sense that there's a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity at Idaho State. And people are energized, and you know, COVID has put a damper on optimism, but people are eager to reset and see things start to move again. That's been the overall message we've been getting this week.
I just got a good direct message that I think raises some good points and that are also touch on some similar comments that we received earlier this week, Dick, that the professional administrator has not necessarily had a great record of success creating teams. Yeah. An administrator with substantial college teaching experience may be more beneficial. What steps are being taken towards hiring a provost with an abundant amount of teaching experience and a true understanding of faculty?
Yes. Well, we'll certainly emphasize that in the position profile because we have heard that repeatedly in the last week. There's a concern. I don't know what other path there is into being a provost other than being in the faculty, but I guess there is such a path and people are not too convinced that that's what they're after. They don't want that kind of, as several people have said, professional administrator. They want someone who has significant faculty experience and a commitment to teaching and who understands faculty life. So that's been received loud and clear. We'll certainly emphasize that.
And we've seen that comment, as Dick mentioned, it in multiple settings, coming from the deans, coming from administrators, coming from the faculty senate, coming from other groups, that somebody's really got to have that true understanding. Another direct message coming in. Could you mention the top 5 to 7 strengths that have come up so far regarding the provost position?
I don't have a ranked list, but I think I can talk about a couple of things that people have emphasized. There's been a thought we'd like someone who's skillful and experienced in change management. That, you know, there are things in higher ed is about change these days, and a person who's adept with that's a thing people desired. There was a sense that the person who is politically savvy in terms of dealing with issues in the state, issues with you know, legislature, state board of education will be very important. They wanted someone who, we talked about this, is approachable, but also a strong communicator and who will find, you know, new ways to, you know, make sure people are aware of where things stand. I mean, basically a lot of people have said, we want an advocate for the faculty who understands the faculty and you know, thinks about their issues and challenges. There was a lot of emphasis on, you know, a focus on helping to support improved teaching, you know, professional development for that. I'm just trying to look at my list here. number of people said we'd like a person who has a genuine commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. And I guess I would add to that, and not just a performative commitment, not just sort of, knowing what's the thing to say, but knowing what can be done organically in the setting of Idaho. What are the populations and groups in Idaho that are not fully represented and fully participating in the opportunities that Idaho State has to offer, and who can help get some traction on addressing those kinds of issues. I think those were the main things. Brian, is there anything else that rang a bell with you? You were in on these sessions too.
I think you've touched on a lot of those common themes of values that we've heard and numerous messages. And so back to that message that I received, we're going to be digesting all those values and comments and the feedback, circling back with, of course, the president and the search committee to really make sure we are building those into a position profile and search prospectus. Another message just came in. Will the search committee be allowed to use a Google search engine to learn more about the candidates? A past search included candidates with a checkered history that was found by Google searches. Well,
our firm will certainly be doing that. And that was a thing that a couple of people emphasized, be thorough in vetting candidates and understanding their history. So that we'll certainly be doing that. I mean, I'm sure many people have been watching the issue in your neighboring state with Oregon State University's president and the difficulties that followed him after he left LSU. And, how much of that was knowable before is hard to tell, but, we will certainly do our very best to be aware of those things and to share those with the search committee.
Yeah, that type of background will be reviewed, and then culminating, of course, at the end with a complete, thorough background check as well. So there'll be layers along that line.
Okay.
Another great message here. It's important that the provost not have any blind spots in academic areas. The provost has to be able to appreciate all academic areas. A previous provost was uncomfortable with STEM and caused some significant damage. How can the search measure a candidate's potential for such a broader perspective?
Well, I think we can evaluate that by looking at, what's the career trajectory of this person? Have they had, increasing breadth of experience and authority, in the process of the search committee interviewing the candidates? I'm sure they'll be probing for that as well. As I've said, I think the provost position is uniquely challenging just because of the breadth. And I think at Idaho State, it may be a little extra challenging just because of the unusual breadth of your offerings and the, from certificate to PhD, branch campuses, research setting, clinical setting, main campus setting. It's a whopper of a job, and that will make it attractive, I think, to good candidates. But yes, that's obviously a critical part of the role is to understand the whole academic project.
I received another direct message just asking how were the search committee members chosen and the faculty members chosen. So it was a process there where nominations were asked of deans. The president's office also went to the faculty senate and asked for some nominations for faculty representation, asked the deans for that type of that input as well. And so a combination of those type of nominations and trying to make sure we had a good cross-section of people from branch campuses, from the community, from students, from faculty, from staff, and also trying to touch on the different divisions across campus. So it was through that type of nomination and trying to choose a good cross-section of the university. Well, these have been some great questions and comments. This has been really helpful. Are there any other thoughts on selling points? Anything else that anyone here feels like we should really take back to the president and take back to the search committee as we develop our search prospectus? If not here, maybe what I'll do before I turn over any final comments that Dick might have, I want to share with this group also some information, and for anybody watching this on demand, how additional comments can be shared. If there's feedback that you haven't been as comfortable with sharing today, you can email me. That would be great as well. But we have just launched a web page, and I'm going to share my screen here. This is a web page that we've just launched. It is still a little an outline of some things. Not all the content is out there. We're going to be building this over the next couple of months as we prepare to launch in August. But we have a web page, isu.edu/provost search. And in particular, you'll notice on that front page, there is a button for feedback process. Anybody here is welcome to click on that link, and it will take you to a Qualtrics form where you can put in some more thoughts. If there's something more that comes to you over the weekend or next week, please feel free to provide some of this feedback on the traits and experience of what it's going to take to be a successful provost, opportunities, challenges. Feel free to share that type of information, and it's going to be very helpful as we continue to receive that input into the prospectus design. All right. And I guess a final question just came in as far as what is the major reason you're telling prospective candidates as to why they want to come to ISU? My response on that is we're learning that. I think that's one thing we've wanted to have through all these learning sessions. So we've gathered a lot of information thus far that we want to digest, discuss with the search committee, discuss with the president, and we will be formulating that strategy to make sure that we have those selling points. And the feedback tool that I just shared and the information here is all going to be folded into those decisions. So thank you. Dick, are there any last comments that you or Steph?
Just to thank everyone for your time this morning. It's been quite helpful. It's very good feedback and gives us a good perspective and a line of sight on the institution and what you need and what you hope for. Thanks for your time, Stephanie. Thank you, Stuart. Thanks for getting the feedback loop in place for people. We certainly will be monitoring that and seeing what else we can learn. I think that's it. We appreciate the opportunity today.
Thank you again, everyone, for being here. We truly appreciate it, especially with a little hiccup at the start, but everyone's patience to still join us and have a great, engaging discussion. It's great, deeply appreciated. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday, and we look forward to speaking to anyone again soon. Thank you.